welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Emily and this is Salesforce Emily. We talk about mostly Salesforce things here and some adjacent things. Recently I've been doing more sit-down videos talking to you about the Salesforce platform, the Salesforce ecosystem, and I've started doing some interviews. So today I have with me Jeremy. He is a Salesforce consultant. That's what we're going to be talking about today, is being a Salesforce consultant and the questions that you guys have asked me over the years about being a Salesforce consultant, kind of what that's like. I'm very grateful to Jeremy for being here. Also, Jeremy is my husband, so that's why he can be here during this crazy time. So without further ado, I'll let Jeremy introduce himself.
Yeah, so I'm Jeremy. I'm a Salesforce Solutions Architect. I'm 10 times certified. I've been doing Salesforce for around 7 years now. And yeah, currently I am a consultant and I lead projects and deliver solutions. So I guess a little thing that would help here in an introduction would be to talk about what I do as a consultant. And so fortunately I have a sales team where I work, and they identify the need, they land the client, and then they punt it on over to me, and I am on delivery. So I am over the delivery of the solution. So a statement of work is made up, and then I figure out how to architect the solution, and I consult to make sure that all happens. So that's kind of a high level of what I do.
Tell us a little bit more about kind of your role and how that fits into your company. If this is a large size consulting firm, a mid-size, a boutique consulting firm, and kind of how that affects your day-to-day.
Yeah, so the company I work for has a lot of different enterprise solutions, and Salesforce is kind of relatively new in their product offering. So with that in mind, we are, I'd say, relatively smaller. As a solutions architect, I lead all of the client discovery sessions, so I sit down with them, identify all of their needs, and then I also design the solution that will meet their needs. So I create that design, and then fortunately I've got a project manager, and so they help coordinate things like making sure we have all of our meetings set up, and also setting up our project management software. So we use Jira, so that way we can all be coordinated there. So typically we either have 1 or 2 projects that we're assigned to, because they are quite large and significant, and they cover the public sector, or it could be government. So there's a lot of diversity there. And then a team typically is made up of a solution architect, a project manager, and then you've got typically a developer, and that's kind of the fundamental team. Maybe you'll get lucky depending on if you have a kind of an administrator that would help with kind of the more standard configuration changes. So that's kind of how projects are for me as a consultant with my current gig. So
you are really helping to build out this Salesforce practice within a larger consulting firm.
Yeah, we're definitely growing, and I've found that when I've interviewed in a lot of different places, there's definitely a lot of agencies that are growing. So this is pretty similar to, or pretty common to be in kind of this situation where your team's growing, and you're also at the same time having a need or a want maybe to have additional help.
Say that working with your clients is enjoyable, or do you find that it's not as enjoyable as other parts of your job?
Yeah, great question. So I typically really love working with my clients. Every client that I have now is really awesome. And so as long as I've had time to prepare for a meeting, sometimes sometimes things slip through and you find yourself in a meeting and you weren't made aware of it, and that can be a little tricky. But even when that happens, what I found is most clients, they want to work with you. They understand that your success and their success are really one and the same, and so you just work together, and as long as you have a somewhat reasonable personality, then working with clients is great. So they're happy to meet. We kind of have a little bit of small talk, and you know, outside of work, I'd probably be friends with a lot of my clients. So yeah, they're great to work with.
That's great. Find it, or has it in the past been nerve-wracking for you to work with clients and kind of face some type of imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so I think earlier on it's always tricky, especially if you're delivering a solution on a platform or a part of Salesforce that you might not be too familiar with. That can always be really tricky. And I did definitely experience some of that earlier on, and what I recommend there is, even as a solution architect, I don't have the answer for everything, and it's very okay to say, I don't know the answer to that one, but I can come back to you and get the answer. Obviously you don't want to say that for everything, because you are the expert when you're working with your clients, but it's very reasonable. There's definitely kind of edge cases that you want to have the validations that it can work, and obviously it doesn't make sense to figure that out in the meeting itself. So that's kind of what I recommend, is it's okay to not know the answer and just keep on getting better, so that happens less and less.
Is it difficult for you or difficult to work with multiple clients at once?
Yeah, great question. So I don't find it too difficult, and I actually really enjoy working with multiple clients. And the reason is it just adds a lot more diversity. I feel like I'm learning a lot more. Obviously there's kind of this balance where you don't want to have so many clients where you can't really keep anything in check or in line for, you know, the context of the projects that you're working on. But one tip that I found that is extremely helpful is really write down everything, record your meetings. There's going to be things shared and said that are going to be essential to what you do deliver, and then recording those things written is also very useful. It's a lot quicker to go over that instead of a video, and that will help work with the clients and keeping things in line. But I typically like to have 2, maybe even 3 projects that I'm designing the solution for, so the days aren't so stagnant.
Awesome. What are your typical hours as a consultant? Is it like feast and famine? Is it pretty straightforward? Kind of what do you experience?
Yeah, so there's definitely times when there are spikes in work, but I would say if I were to compare this to what I would suspect versus the reality of what I am expecting, so even when our pipeline has been very low, there still has been a lot of work to do. So specifically, as a solution architect, I really can fill in any part of the solution, just about everything. And so even when maybe I've finished all the configuration or maybe some of the development work, what I can go ahead and do is I can provide training documentation, I can work on and provide the architectural diagrams and those things. So there's always something that can be done to move your project forward. And yeah, even when the workload hasn't been that big, that's always a thing. And there'll also be times when production issues happen and everybody's kind of freaking out and you need to fix their problems. So that will obviously be more busy. There's actually been a lot less of those big issue fires that, I thought would happen more.
What would you say are the pros and cons of working in a consulting environment rather than working in-house as an admin or maybe an architect in-house, or kind of what's that difference?
Yeah, great question. So I'd say the biggest plus of being a consultant is that I believe it is the fastest way to learn. And hands-on learning through exposure to different, not only organizations, those organizations have different processes, they can be a part of different industries that you would never have the chance to be exposed to if you are simply an admin for only one company as an internal resource. So exposure and learning is a huge plus of the consultant life. Another benefit is you get to work with a lot of different people, and I found that really enjoyable. Working with other people who really respect you. That's a great thing there. As a consultant, you've got this premium time that they're paying you for, and so when you sit down and you help guide them towards a solution, I found that I've been more respected as a consultant versus an internal resource. So those things I think have been really great. Some of the drawbacks are depending on the company that you work for. Sometimes the work-life balance isn't there. Where I currently work, they do a very good job of maintaining that fine line of work-life. They really don't want you to work more than 40 hours. If you work more than 40 hours, then you should tell your manager, and the reason is if you're working more than you should be, then there's a problem and it should be resolved. So that's one thing to really look out for as a consultant. To not overwork yourself, make sure that there's fine boundaries for work, because there's always more work to do for sure, especially when you have more clients. I think my experience also, this is the last thing I want to add here, is as an in-house resource, it is also a lot easier and possibly kind of a temptation to coast some more. Typically the demand isn't, or the rigor of the job isn't as high as consulting, where you need to produce all of these different solutions. So yeah, really any experience that you can get is great. The key is owning your experience, being proactive and learning. I find that consulting is kind of the way to fast track your career and learning Salesforce.
Do you find that being a Salesforce consultant is more of a in your lane kind of job, or it's a very collaborative kind of job?
Yeah, so I would say that being a consultant is very collaborative, especially as a solution architect. I design the solution that is going to be implemented. And so while working with my team, I also need to not only instruct and help them understand the vision and the architecture, but in addition to that, make sure that it's being delivered in line with that. So that's verification, that's testing, and hopefully there are resources to help you with that. But I found that consulting is very collaborative, and you work very, very well, or you should work well with your team, and everyone's needed to develop the solution. Whereas if you're an internal admin, especially for like smaller companies, you could definitely find yourself being really the only one that knows Salesforce, and then it's really up to your company how well they are at collaborating and working with you. But I found as a consultant, you and your team just work together and you make some great solutions, and everyone's needed.
What are some of the qualities that you would find in a Salesforce consultant, or that you would look for, or qualities people should develop, I guess, to be a consultant?
Yeah, I think that really these two are the most important. One is to have great communication skills. So that is being clear in what you do share, but also one thing that I found in myself as I've gotten better at consulting is that people are people. We're not the most logical, and it helps in whenever you're working with clients to be able to build a rapport and to be able to have foster a good environment to help identify everything that should be delivered in your solution. So that communication is key, and that communication also trickles down to your team when you're delivering those solutions. And then secondly, of course, knowing the Salesforce platform so you can speak as an expert in the field and consult to lead the solutions that are best for your clients. So I'd say those are the two most important things.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to mention or touch on before we go?
Yeah, I'd say if you're thinking about being a Salesforce consultant, it'd probably be good for you to get your feet a little wet by trying to go to some freelancing websites. Now, I don't need to get into the differences of freelancing and consulting, but really, if you can get some experience doing so, I'd recommend it. I also recommend getting some experience through so Upwork is really good for finding if you are interested in getting some exposure to consulting. And I'd say give it a try. It's definitely a phenomenal way of learning the Salesforce ecosystem. And with a system or a platform like Upwork, you can get a little taste of it. See if you want to do it without having to go into a full-time consulting role. So I think that's what I'd suggest if you want to see if you like it.
Thank you, Jeremy, for coming on to my YouTube channel and for doing these 2 videos with me. This has been really fun for us to kind of chat and sit down. I will have Jeremy's LinkedIn in the description box down below if you'd like to connect with him. If you have any other questions for Jeremy, his office is literally on the other side of this wall, so it's easy for me to grab him and do a video and kind of talk about anything that Jeremy can answer the questions to that I'm not as experienced with. So if you like the video, be sure to give it a like. Be sure to subscribe if you want more YouTube videos like this, and comment down below if you have any other questions for Jeremy, and he might be the one answering them. If you see Salesforce Emily, you'll probably put a little J next to it if it's him answering. So thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.